In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to see all of you again. It's good to get all the dust off of us from camp. I was joking with the kids in camp that one of the first things I was going to do when I got home is dive in the pool and take a chlorine bath to get all the dust out of us. We should seriously pray for rain because driving into Prescott Valley, you can see on the hillsides there that not only all the grasses, but all the juniper trees are dead and dying. So we need rain in the very worst way. You may remember, if you were here last week, that I somewhat jokingly said during the announcements that I was asking for your prayers for all the kids at All Saints Camp. And I want to thank you for that, for those of you who joined with us in praying that the Holy Spirit would be with all of our kids as they were in camp together. And I can definitely feel the weight of your prayers because it was perhaps one of the best camp experiences that I've ever had in more than 20 years of doing camp ministry. You may also remember that I said that my prayer for our kids would be that they come back from camp so enthused for their faith, so in love with Jesus Christ, that they will make the rest of us feel uncomfortable. And that prayer holds true today. It was really a beautiful week. We had 8 priests in camp with us this year. It's kind of a first. We had priests from the Antiochian, the OCA, and the Greek Archdiocese. We had counselors from every archdiocese represented here in the valley and beyond. We had one counselor, Father Jim Pappas's daughter from Fresno, who because of the elevation and the dryness had terrific nosebleeds. So the nurse, now listen to this, inserted a balloon catheter into her sinus passage and taped the port to her cheek, and she stayed all week. Could you imagine that? It was incredible. I've learned years ago that camp ministry means that I am going to cry. I'm going to cry in camp, both in a very good way and in a very painful way. You may not know, but in camp ministry, every day begins with matins. The first thing that we do is matins together in the chapel. And then we have alone with God time after for a few moments before eating breakfast. And then every evening is Vespers. Before the dinner hour, we have Vesper service in the chapel. Now, you know me well enough to know that one of the things that I kind of, still have dust in my throat, sort of harp on is the fact that we sometimes set very, very low expectations for our children. Very low expectations. And so I was noticing on the first night of Vespers that we were only just reciting the beautiful hymn, O Gladsome Light, that we sing during the entrance in Vespers. So the fathers and I spoke together and said, no, we need to teach them to sing it. And so on Tuesday evening, we sang it all together, and by Wednesday evening they had it. You should hear them sing the Apoletikion for all saints of North America, the patrons for our camp. It's incredible. Terry, you'd want all of these kids in your choir, I can promise you. Very inspiring, absolutely. Very inspiring. And so I'm standing there, and I stood in the middle of the kids when I wasn't serving, so I could help them sing the hymns together. And that's the first time the tears began to flow. Out of joy, and out of seeing our faith validated in so powerful a way that our children embrace it and sing all the responses, all the hymns, all the readings, save the gospel that the priest does, completely and energetically giving themselves to divine worship in the church. And as I was standing there listening to them, it occurred to me that this is how the Orthodox Christian faith is going to be not only maintained, but grown in America. This is how our parishes can be shaken out of the doldrums and the minimalism that is the lifeblood of most Orthodox parishes in the nation today, and be invigorated and energized in pursuit of the gospel. So very many happy tears. You would be amazed in our Orthodox Life sessions, speaking of how incredible and how very capable our kids are and how perceptive they are for the faith. The last day, Friday, Father Andreas Paez, my dear brother from St. John the Evangelist, OCA Parish in Tempe, and I were having a joint session together with one of our youngest groups. So we reviewed the lessons for the week, and then it was time for just general questions. Here are 3 of the questions given to us by 7, 8, and 9-year-olds. Why did Jesus Christ come in the period of history in which he came and not another time? Could the Theotokos have said no to Gabriel at the Annunciation, and what would that have meant for us? And Father, what is it like for you when you stand at the altar and consecrate the holy gifts? From 7, 8, and 9-year-olds. It's time, beloved, for us to be exercised and delivered from our sin of low expectations for our kids. They're absolutely capable of embracing this faith and living it and walking in it and doing everything that God calls each of us to do, regardless of age. But there were other tears that were shed in camp. Tears that were painful. The theme of our camp was from St. Peter's beautiful words, speaking to us in his first general epistle about the need to be vigilant. Our theme was stay alert, stay alive. Stay alert, stay alive. Now, well-meaning but uninformed grown-ups might think, well, that sounds rather dramatic. Here's the verses that we selected for the theme of our camp this year. From 1 Peter 5, beginning in the 8th verse, he says, "Be of sober spirit, be on the alert. Your adversary, the devil, prowls about like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. But resist him firm in your faith, knowing that the same experiences of suffering are being accomplished by your brethren who are in the world." Again, many parents may be tempted to think that the problems, the challenges, the issues that their children are facing would be those appropriate to young people. You know, beloved, if you heard the things that I heard in speaking with our kids, I was shaken. I've been a priest long enough to have heard just about anything and everything. But the wounds that are being inflicted on our young people because they are being sent into the world unarmed and unprepared for the challenges and the assaults against their faith were stunning. I try not to cry in front of the kids. This is not one of those times. Some people will say, well, Father, are you saying that these are bad kids? Absolutely not. I am not saying that. We hear a lot of times, don't we? Oh, Father, they're such good kids, such very good kids. In fact, Father, I think that goodness itself is somehow made better by the goodness of our kids. Great. And irrelevant. This isn't about whether they're good or bad kids, they're good kids. But when they are not given the tools that they need, when we play hide and seek with the faith with our young ones, when our Orthodox Christian life is somewhere on the list but nowhere near the top, when our children are taught by our actions to believe that seasonal attendance at the services is fine and showing up whenever you feel like it is fine, then we're walking our kids blindfolded into the buzzsaw of life. Beloved, the wounds that they bear are stunning and in some cases will be with them for the rest of their lives. And they're young enough to be in camp. This should challenge us. We should have a sense of urgency about this. There was a word that appeared this morning in the gospel reading again and again, particularly in St. Matthew and St. Mark's account of the calling of the disciples. It's the word of theos. Immediately, the disciples dropped their nets and jumped out of the boat, and immediately they followed him. And in St. Mark's gospel, and immediately they went into Capernaum and began preaching the gospel. Again and again we see this word of theos, immediately, which in the Greek means a straight line. They made, as it were, a beeline to follow Christ. There was no quibbling, no discussion, no negotiation. Immediately they followed Jesus with a sense of urgency. Beloved, immediately today, we should be willing to reform and do whatever it takes so that beautiful experiences like All Saints Camp aren't just isolated events, but rather they will be supported and even enhanced and grown and strengthened when they go home into the parish. Father Andrew and I spoke openly. What do you do when you wake up on Sunday and Mom and Dad don't want to go to church? Get them out of bed. Call your priests. Call a friend. Get a ride. It's really time for us, beloved, to give our children the resources they need to excel in the faith as we expect them to excel in everything else that they do in life, whether athletically, academically, artistically, in whatever other area of their life we hold them to very high standards. But the spiritual life somehow, our children will surprise you. They will surprise you, and they deserve better than they typically get. What are some things that we're doing here? We have our children in the choir, constantly recruiting. Come and sing with us. We're trying to find more and more of the beautiful young people, such as we have at the chanter stand, to learn how to chant. You should have heard them chant in camp. It was amazing. Reading the epistle, serving in the altar, and every other way that we can somehow find to get our young people involved and teach them the faith. I met recently with our Sunday school directors, and beginning this fall, in 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade, they're going to be studying the 4-part Orthodox faith series that's been a catechetical model for many years, comprised of worship, spirituality, doctrine, and history of the church. It's robust. The anticipation is that the parents will review the lesson because it is available online every week before Sunday school, so that the teacher can then just review that lesson with the kids in class. The pushback is typically, well, Father, maybe every parent won't do that. Yes, but the parents who love their children's souls will. The 11th and 12th graders are going to be studying with me on a regular basis the Orthodox way. We're going to do more. We're going to push. We intend to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable because our children deserve to have the support, the resources that they require to meet the very real and adult challenges that are facing them when they go out even to elementary school, to say nothing of college. It was a beautiful week. It was an inspiring week. It was a validation of everything that we attempt to do as a family of faith here at Holy Trinity. Your children made you proud, whether you know that or not. They were amazing. They were amazing. And because they are, I and we must be committed to helping them grow and grow in their faith in Jesus Christ. Amen.